Good afternoon and welcome to Talking Point, broadcasting from Southampton Solent University. The time is 5 p.m. and these are the national headlines from Chris Milligan.
Thank you, David. 3 men have appeared in court in central London accused of planning a terror attack. Nadir Alice Saeed, Yusuf Shah Saeed and Hasib Hamiyun were charged following raids in London and High Wycombe a fortnight ago. Magistrates heard the attack allegedly consisted of a plot to behead a member of the public. The Prime Minister says the pledge of extra powers for Scotland is not tied to plans for further devolution in the wider UK. David Cameron told MPs on the Commons Liaison Committee that one is not dependent on the other. He's facing questions over his proposals following the Scottish independence vote. A Russian website allowing people to log on and use our own webcams to spy on us. It mainly concerns devices bought separately from computers, like those which are part of baby monitors and security systems. Hackers can get access because many don't change the original password. And finally, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh have marked their 67th wedding anniversary with an RAF flypast. 2 Typhoon jets and a tornado flew over the Lossiemouth Bay in north-eastern Scotland. A local schoolboy then presented her with flowers.
Thank you very much, Chris. And now the sports news with Fred Blagden.
Thank you very much, David. Manchester United midfielder Daley Blind will be out for up to 6 months with injury ahead of Manchester United's clash with Arsenal on Saturday at 5:30. A recent study has found that the Premier League is only a third English. This weekend, first place Chelsea take on 13th place West Brom on Saturday at 3 o'clock. City kick off at the same time against 5th place Swansea. Arsenal take on United at 5:30. Palace play Liverpool on the Sunday at 1:30, and on Monday night, Villa take on 2nd place Southampton at 8 o'clock. On to the rugby. On Saturday, there are 6 internationals going on. Ireland take on Australia at 4:30. Scotland take on Tonga at 2:30. England play Samoa at 7 o'clock. Wales play New Zealand at 5:30. France play Argentina at 8. And Italy take on the Springboks at 2 o'clock. In the Premier League, Cockrell wants a head coach to ease the burden on him ahead of Leicester's clash on Sunday against London Welsh. In the pick of the round, Saracens take on Saints at 1 o'clock on Sunday. On to the Formula 1 now, where Sebastian Vettel is joining Ferrari as Alonso exits. And in tennis, Roger Federer has been passed fit for the Davis Cup final.
Thank you, Fred. And now for the business headlines. The emergence of a cheap oil era threatens to upset the world's geopolitical landscape. There will be winners and losers to the situation. It's predicted that Russia, Iran and Venezuela are set to suffer from the fallout, whilst the USA and China leap ahead. As a result of this, some US companies are confident that they have more staying power in the oil market than OPEC, and thus are unlikely to get involved in what economist Philip Vergler is calling a price war of necessity. Investment banking group Goldman Sachs has dismissed 2 employees after one of them allegedly brought a secret document into the company. The junior banker was fired a week after the discovery was made towards the end of September, along with another employee who failed to take matters further. A spokesperson for Goldman Sachs said, "We have zero tolerance for improper handling of confidential information." And finally, a quick look at today's stock market. The FTSE 100 is down 0.44%, the DAX is down by 0.42%, and the Nasdaq is up by 0.22%. Now back to Fred Blagden with the weather report.
Tomorrow will be mostly cloudy across England with outbreaks of rain in eastern Scotland. Temperatures are averaging 9 degrees, whereas Northern Ireland likely to be cloudy, averaging 10 degrees. The place to be tomorrow is the Isles of Scilly, where the temperature will be reaching a scorching 14 degrees.
Thank you, Fred. Now for some music. Here's Biffy Clyro with Bubbles.
How's your view of things today? God young to fade away. The sinners sin but aren't aware. Our fables take us everywhere. I can't keep up with you. I can't keep up. I can't compete with history. We'll film a live but dub our tale. The mystery must stay inside. Look at our homes, look at our lives. In control of the morning. In control of the sea. You chasing around and trying to pop them all the time. We don't need to trust a single word they say. You are creating all the bubbles at play. There's a girl, there's a girl, there's a girl, there's a girl. She's down by the river. In her own creepy world, there's a girl, and she's down by the river. It's time to consider that baby is a sinner. She'll wash away your sins, wash away your sins. She'll wash away your sins, wash away your sins. She'll wash away your sins and go home. I only once upset my Ken, accused him of a moral slip. Well, he came back and claimed to change. I know his life's the same again. I can ask him again. I should let it go. You are creating all the bubbles at night. I'm chasing around trying to pop them all the time. We don't need to trust a single word they say. You are creating all the bubbles at play. There's a girl, there's a girl, there's a girl, there's a girl. She's down by the river. In her own creepy world, there's a girl, and she's down by the river. It's time to consider that baby is a sinner. There's a girl, there's a girl, there's a girl, there's a girl. Wash away your sins, down in the river.
And that was Biffy Clyro there with Bubbles. I'm here in the studio now with Chris Milligan and Fred Blagden. Now, we were just talking now about the Rochester and Strood by-election. It says here that 13 people are running to be the area's MP, and that this by-election was called after Mark Reckless, a Conservative MP, defected to the UK Independence Party. So voting's been going on today, and guys, what are your predictions? We'll start off with you, Chris.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting election, really, to be honest. I think, obviously, Mark Reckless defected to UKIP, and many of his supporters from UKIP have defected with him, as such, to UKIP, from the Conservative Party. I think it's going to be a very interesting election. How do you think the outcome's going to come, David?
Well, you've seen UKIP's performance in the most recent by-elections. They've been doing very well, placing either first or second in almost every one in the last 6 months. Frankly, to rule out Mark Reckless, who already has a relationship with his constituents, would be foolish.
I mean, exactly. I mean,
Yeah, Mark.
he's been obviously his constituents have obviously been very happy with what he's done so far, especially with the Conservative Party. Now, him going to UKIP, I don't think they're gonna. If they feel confident with him, I think that they'll stay with him and vote for him in this current by-election, and he'll be the
winner.
Yeah.
Okay, and what are your opinions on this, Fred?
I still think the Tories have a chance. I mean, a lot of areas don't like to switch parties due to like long-running relationships. So I think the Tories or UKIP will win this election.
Absolutely, you do have to take into account that now that Mark Reckless has defected to UKIP, you have to question whether his manifesto will be the same, or whether he's going to toe the party line of the UK Independence Party.
I think the majority will be the same, but obviously it'll be a little bit more right-wing. Now he's defected to UKIP, want to keep Nigel Farage and his
His cronies
Yeah,
happy.
Yeah.
Farage will be in the back of his mind, I think.
Those
yeah.
up the hierarchy, happy. Cameron can fuck. Sorry.
Cut.
Nice one. Unfortunately, we are recording before the watershed. Anyway, what was
And
your
we're not live as well.
looking forward to the 2015 general election? Obviously, here at Southampton Solent University, we're going to be covering that with great interest. What are your predictions going into it? We'll start with you this time, Fred.
I think it's going to be another coalition. I think another Tory coalition. I reckon they'll be up with UKIP and the Lib Dems.
UKIP and the Lib Dems.
Well, I think if they can have enough MPs by just joining with UKIP, then the Lib Dems will not be needed, obviously. But I think if they need more MPs, they will just join up with Clegg and his mates again.
Absolutely, and one thing we do have to take into consideration, as Chris laughs at the idea of Nick Clegg having friends, is the idea that it's no longer a three-party system, Chris. We're now looking at 5 potential parties.
It's so true, as Fred gestured to me 5 on his hand. It's true, it is a 5-party system now. We have, obviously, your usual Conservative, Labour. Lib Dems, I mean, you can't count them out just yet. They're still there. They're still there and thereabouts.
Give it a year.
Then you've got UKIP, and you've also got the Greens as well there in the background. So I mean, I don't like the term major party. I think the 2 major parties like Labour and Conservatives. I think it's a bit too, it's a little bit unfair, really, to be honest. I don't think you should vote based on what party you believe in. I think you should vote based on your beliefs on who's going to represent you in your local constituency. And who do you think is going to best represent you as the Prime Minister of this country? And like Fred, I believe that we're going to probably see another coalition. Whether it will be with Nick Clegg and his mates, mates, in quotation marks, I'm not sure. But it could definitely be Conservative in a UKIP coalition. I can definitely see that.
Totally agree with you, Chris.
Yeah.
There.
I'm going to go ahead with my prediction now. We're going to have Conservatives, UKIP, and then that won't be enough because there are now 5 parties competing for the majority of the seats, whereas there were 3 plus 1 seat for the Greens in the 2010 election. So I'm going to say that they're going to need the Green Party to push them over that first past the post.
You think so?
boundary.
You think the Greens will go
I
go
think
along with it?
They will have the 1 or 2 seats needed to just push them over the edge.
I have to say I agree with David entirely on that prediction. I also think that the 5-party system actually puts even more pressure on Ed Miliband to recruit seats.
Do you know, I was about to say that we're mentioning about all these. We've even mentioned the Greens in detail, but we're yet to mention Labour. Haven't mentioned Ed Miliband and Labour, and obviously he's come under a lot of scrutiny recently, and whether or not he's a good enough leader for Labour, for some reason I just don't see him in the running. Obviously they're going to get votes, as they do. That's Labour. You expect the same old people to vote for Labour, and that's not going to change. So we're definitely going to see Labour up there. Whether I see him as Prime Minister, I'm not sure, really.
The thought of Ed Miliband running the country strikes fear into my heart.
But then again, if I put this to you, if you could see David Miliband, who was the other candidate to be the leader of the Labour Party, could you see him as Prime Minister? I personally could.
David Miliband,
could, yeah.
I think was very, very unlucky not to be Prime Minister. It
Yeah.
was only trade unions that pushed Ed Miliband into,
One thing I will say is that Labour are very fortunate that Scotland are a remaining part of the UK.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
if
true.
Scotland had gone, that would have been
That's
most
a
of
huge
Labour
portion
votes
of their
gone.
votes.
It's probably 30-40% of their votes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll discuss Ed Miliband in some greater detail later. He's been in the news for some other stuff this week. We're going to play another song for you now. This is R. Kelly with I Believe I Can Fly.
I used to think that was nothing but an awful song. But now I know the meaning of true love. I'm leaning on the everlasting arms. If I can see it, then I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. I see me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. See, I was on the verge of breaking down. Sometimes silence can seem so loud. There are miracles in life I must achieve. But first I know it starts inside of me. Oh, if I can see it, then I can be it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. I see me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. Oh, I believe I can fly. Hey, 'cause I believe in you. Oh, if I can see it, then I can do it. I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. I see me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I can fly. I believe I can fly. I can fly. I believe I can fly. Hey, if I just spread my wings, I can fly. 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 Hey, if I just spread my wings, I can fly. I can fly. I can fly. Just have a little patience. Still hanging from a love I lost. I'm feeling your frustration. But any minute all the pain will stop. Just hold really wanna start over again. I know you wanna be my salvation, the one that I can always depend. I'll try to be strong, believe me, I'm trying to move on. It's complicated, but understand me, 'cause I need time. My heart is numb, has no feeling, so I am still healing. Just time and have a little patience, yeah. Have a little patience, yeah. 'Cause the scars run so deep, it's been hard, but I have to believe. Have a little patience. Have a little patience. Oh, 'cause I just need time. My heart is numb, has no feeling, so I'm still healing. Just time and have a little patience. Have a little patience. My heart is numb, has no feeling, so I'm still healing. Just time and have a little patience.
That was R. Kelly with I Believe I Can Fly, and Take That with Patience. Three of us are still here in the studio, and we were just discussing popular ITV reality show I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Chris, what have you got for us?
Well, if you haven't already heard, I hope you have heard, but Gemma Collins has indeed left I Am a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here after finding it difficult to adapt. The Towie star spoke to the Mail online saying, "I'm really excited to be going home. I can't wait to get back to Essex. I don't regret my decision to leave the jungle. I'm never going back in there. It was really, really traumatic. Walking into the jungle, I wanted to walk straight back out again. Everything was hellish. Don't get me wrong, I'm going for walks in the forest. I love going for walks in the forest, but only in England, where there are no wild animals. I will never ever come to Australia again. I've caused so much trauma to myself."
Oh, bless.
Bless, yeah. She's only been there for, I think it's 3 days.
3 days.
And she hasn't even done one of the challenges yet.
She's still
If she's seen what Jimmy Bullard's been through these past few days,
she's
my
still getting,
God.
she's still getting paid the $100,000. as
Well, no. Her agent came out today and made a statement saying that she's only going to receive, it sounds terrible, but she's only going to receive £40,000.
40 grand.
How's she going to cope?
God's sake.
I know, it must be tough, mustn't it? And she was quoted saying last night as well, which because I watched it, as I'm an avid watcher. Not. I watched last night with my flatmates, and they said she was on, and she was in the booth doing her little one-to-one with the camera, and she's crying, and she's saying, "I will never appear on any television show like this again." And I kept on thinking,
Towie,
Towie
yeah,
is also a reality TV show.
That's your job. So
ITV hit show.
It was all a bit funny, really, to be honest. And you just think at the end of the day, why did they do it? And then obviously you remember that they're being paid £100,000. So, but on sadder news, obviously announced today in the Sun that Craig Charles is set to be the second person to leave after the sad news of the death of his brother, an unexpected death, and obviously we're all very saddened by it, and obviously send our condolences. Must be very tough, so he's going to go home. But they're set to replace with 2 new contestants. They are going to be Edwina Curry.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Edwina Curry, good old Edwina Curry. And the other one from The X Factor, Jake Quickenden.
Oh yeah, that guy.
No, I watched the X Factor, and Jake, let's just say, hasn't got the prettiest of singing voices. I think he was more the sort of pretty boy, sort of Justin Bieber, Conor Maynard sort of looking type guy.
For me, the two biggest celebrities in I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here are Ant and Dec, and they're the
Yeah.
two presenting it, which really confuses me a little bit, to be honest.
I think this year they've done quite well with celebrities. You've got Carl Fogarty, who
Funny man.
He's brilliant.
calls it how it
It's
is.
absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, Craig Charles, infamous for his roles in Robot Wars, Takeshi's Castle.
Red Dwarf.
Great jobs.
Living legend.
He is
Absolutely
a
legend.
legend,
We
yeah.
do send our condolences,
Takeshi's
and we
Castle.
hope he's okay. And obviously Jimmy Bullard. How can we forget Jimmy Bullard?
He's going to be doing the trial next with Kendra, obviously the girl that was in the Playboy Mansion with his lordship.
She is fantastic.
She is, and I'm quite eager to see how she's going to do it. It's live tonight, so I shall be watching that when I go home with my flatmates.
9 o'clock on ITV1.
Absolutely, and they're not the only A-list celebrities in there either. We've got Tinchy Strider as well.
Yeah, Tinchy. You were saying, Fred, that he's probably your favourite person in there.
Yeah, Tinchy is probably my favourite person, but I don't watch the show a lot, but I've heard Tinchy Strider. I like a lot of his music, and I think he's quite calm, quite sort of.
Have
Yeah.
you seen
reserved.
pictures of him? His photo shoot for I'm a Celebrity. In every single image, it looks as though he's trying to hold an invisible box.
An invisible box,
Yes.
Yeah.
He's got his hands out, sort of, just being him really in general. Maybe it's a.
He's quite a funny guy as well, and he's
agree,
competed
yeah.
one of the challenges last night, and I thought he was very good. And the question is, will he win it or not? I'm pretty sure he will.
Should be a
Yeah.
close competition
He
this
should
year.
be. I think Jimmy
be, yeah.
Bollard's probably going to do it. So go on then, guys. Let's do a prediction. Who's going to win?
Ooh.
I'm going to go for Carl Fogarty.
I'm going to go for Jimmy Bullard.
I'm going to hope that Tinchy Strider wins and gets number one spot, and that's my tenuous link into the next song, guys. This is Tinchy Strider with number one.
Tinchy Strider and Dubs. Yo, it was nothing but a quick thing. Kids games, kiss chase, just a quick fling. Now I'm hoping you never go missing. Now I'm telling you, you can hold this ring. Watch how it glistens. It was done as quick as the wind blows. Didn't think I would ever be involved. So I even made a song called Don't Go. Now it's just you and me on a love road. Running like D-Lo, us two tiptoes, that dad get low. And now I care less about who knows. Now we're deep in way past intro, that be explained though.
See, never did I think a boy like me would be in need when all I really wanted was to have some fun.
No, I'm putting this in my head.
I'm telling you one thing, you're number one. See, I don't understand how you're number one when it was just a fling before. Now you're the one. See, all I did was blink twice from my homie to my only number one.
Yo, it was all now, never planned no after. It was like games, jokes, laughter. Live for the moment, left it all open. Now I'm in deep flames, lava, breathe, calmer. And now I'm staying. See, I never saw this in my daydream. It's really you that I'm fully rating. And the days here, no more waiting. Made it all worse cause the smart man raised him. I was all hurt, pain, aching. On the wrong path, then a good girl saved him. That's why I'm letting her know she's amazing.
See, never did I think a boy like me would be in need when all I really wanted was to have some
Now
fun.
I'm putting this in my head.
I'm telling you one thing, you're number one. See, I don't understand how you're number one when it was just a fling before. Now you're the one. See, all I did was blink twice from my homie to my only number one. You lift me off the ground. I always want you around. I ain't gonna let nothing get in the way. Will never let nothing get in the way. You lift me off the ground. I always want you around. I ain't gonna let nothing get in the way. Will never let nothing get in the way.
Yo, I ain't gonna let nothing get in the way. You play your cards all right, you're an ace. You make my nights so bright, you're my days. You took me out of the maze.
You are number one. See, I don't understand how you're number one when it was just a fling before. Now you're the one. See, all I did was blink twice from my homie to my only number one. You lift me off the ground. I always want you around. I ain't gonna let nothing get in the way. Will never let nothing get in the way. You lift me off the ground. I always
Now, we've already discussed politics in some great detail today, as we finished with Tinchy Strider and N-Dubs with number 1. But it's not just the politicians who's been getting involved this week. Musician Myleene Klass has actually come to the forefront and has been in the news for, well, she had a debate with Ed Miliband. Let's just say it had some rather interesting consequences.
The NHS is crying out for resources. We've got to make it more efficient, but let's be frank about this. We've got to face the fact that the NHS is going backwards under this government, and it can't survive with just the kind of resources that it has. Therefore, I think it's right
to save the NHS. Is that your only option? You might as well just tax them on this glass of water. You can't just point at things and tax them. You need to have a better strategy and say, look, why is the NHS in this mess in the first place? Who's handling?
Well, seems like things got a bit feisty in the studio there. This brings up a rather serious debate, however, on mansion tax and taxation in general. So, Chris, do you think Myleene Klass is correct in her standpoint here?
Well, obviously, she has a strong point of view of being a famous musician and obviously earning a lot of money. She obviously she's going to be one of the many that's going to be hit by the mansion tax if, that's obviously if Ed Miliband gets into power. I suppose she does in one sense. Everyone has a right to an opinion. And that's her opinion. Obviously, in that clip, when she says you might as well tax me on this glass of water, she's referring to the mansion tax. And she's saying that you just can't go about taxing everything. Well, she has a point of view. It's a criticism of Ed Miliband. But then another person could easily go out and say, well, you've got every right to tax me on my mansion. People have different opinions, and Myleene obviously had a very strong opinion, and she had a right in that programme to bring forth her view and to criticise Miliband, as she would be able to do to any other politician on that programme as well.
Absolutely. But one thing that is very interesting to note here is that Labour have always been pro-taxation, even since the early 1900s. The old Labour were heavily focused on the working class and taxation to pay for services. So, Fred, what are your thoughts?
On what Myleene Klass said, I think what she said was very potent, and what she said is it's been broadcast hugely. Her spat with Ed Miliband, and talking about the NHS, which is of course a massive part of Ed Miliband's campaign, his election campaign running up to the 2015 general election. I think that what she said about the NHS being in a mess due to politicians' handiwork in the past is very at the forefront of public affairs at the moment.
Absolutely, and of course everyone's aware of the fact that NHS has been struggling. Obviously, as the economy continues to grow now, that's starting to change.
Yeah. I mean, the problem with being a politician is how you balance all this at the end of the day. You need to find solutions to major problems, and obviously Miliband believes that this is the way that you can solve this problem, is by taxing, obviously, with this idea of a mansion tax. Whether I believe it's the right way to go forward, well, I don't really hold an opinion, to be honest, but I think, as I've said before, I'm going to say it again, I think that Myleene's right to come out and to criticise Miliband, but Miliband's right to come back with a response.
Yeah, it certainly put him on the spot. I don't think he was expecting someone of Myleene Klass's sort of background to come at him.
Exactly. I mean, you usually have someone on Question Time like David Starkey, an extremely intelligent man with strong points of view, usually questioning the politicians. You don't really expect someone like Myleene Klass to be the one criticising.
The odd lunatic as well, like Joe Barton or socialist Russell Brand.
Joey Barton.
Or, you never know, we could see Gemma Collins on there soon. She's free for some TV work now.
Gemma Collins.
She's never going on TV again, and you know it.
And not
not until the next series of Towie anyway.
And not in politics either, I don't think.
Mate, can you imagine?
I don't even want to even begin to imagine. So what Myleene Klass is saying there is that basically you shouldn't use taxation as a means of funding the NHS. What other ways can you see, really, of funding it?
Well, that's the problem, really, to be honest. I suppose there are other ways, but there are other difficult ways to go down. And probably taxation is the easiest way to go down, and obviously that's what Miliband and his party believe. And obviously that's as Fred said, that's the forefront of their campaign this year is the NHS. And what other route do you go down, Fred?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, tax is obviously the most obvious route. I think there's so many. There's only so many ways you can fund something like the NHS, and with it being more and more privatised these days, I think the NHS is such an integral part to the UK, and it's so different to other systems in other countries, and that's what makes it special. But So I think taxation is the only route that they can take, and I think Emily Mann's right to talk about that.
Yeah, obviously they do have a government budget that they can use, and they can fund it purely through government expenditure, but that's where the deficit comes in, and that's what would expand the deficit in the first place.
At the end of the day, I think that we're right to be protective over the NHS, because I stand by the viewpoint that the NHS is probably is something that we should treasure very much. It's fantastic that we have it in this country, in somewhere like America, where it's heavily criticised, whereas obviously with Obamacare and stuff. And the NHS over here, I think it's a fantastic thing that we have, and obviously Miliband really wants to protect it. That's the main reason, because obviously it's very sensitive when people talk about the NHS and get very protective over it. So Miliband's obviously using that as the forefront for his party, and I suppose rightly so at the end of the day.
I think you're entirely right there, Chris. I totally agree with Ed Miliband trying to defend the NHS. I think that it is what makes our healthcare in this country so special.
Absolutely. Right, we're going to go and play another couple of songs now here. We're going to start off with Coldplay and The Scientist.
Come up to meet you, tell you I'm sorry. You don't know how lovely you are. I had to find you, tell you I need you, tell you I set you apart. Tell me your secrets and ask me your questions. Now let's go back to the start. Running in circles, coming in tails, heads on the sides apart. Nobody said it was easy. It's such a shame for us to part. Nobody said it was easy. No one ever said it would be this hard. Oh, take me back to the start. I was just guessing at numbers and figures, pulling the puzzles apart. Questions of science, science and progress did not speak as loud as my heart. Tell me you love me, come back and haunt me. Oh, when I rush to the start, running in circles, chasing a tail.
try to get your attention all night long. Asked you once, I asked you twice, asked you 4 times if you'd like to dance to that song. From court to court, down the stairs, and then I followed you out in the rain. Nowhere to be found, never mind. You'll probably never look that pretty again. You're not 19 forever, pull yourselves together. I know it seems strange, but things they change. Older woman and ever so slightly younger man. God bless the band, they're doing all they can. You're not 19 forever, pull yourselves together. I know it seems strange, but things they change. Older woman and ever so slightly younger man. God bless the band, they're doing all they can. You're not 19 forever. You're not 19 forever. You're not 19 forever. It's not big.
And that was the Cortinas with Not 19 Forever. Of course, everything changes and people grow older and they move on. Chris Milligan has a related topic here for us. Chris, why is Lee Evans in the news at the moment?
Well, Lee Evans has just announced that this is going to be his last ever tour and he's going to retire. Yes, the 50-year-old has announced he is to retire after being in the comedy business for over 20 years. Evans is currently touring and told Jonathan Ross that he's friggin' knackered, in his words, and that this will be the end for him. The main reason obviously being his family. There have obviously been other reasons as well. One of the reasons for his sudden departure is the death of his manager, Adam Cresswell, last year from a heart attack. Evans had this to say. He says, "All I've ever done is work, and Addison used to put his arm around me and say, 'Don't worry, I will look after you, and it's okay.' He said, 'My dad always used to say that to me, you have to go to work, so I constantly worked and did comedy tours.' He said, 'I think I ignored that for far too long, and I think I also ignored my missus for far too long, and I want to spend more time with her. I'm going to go and see my wife, be home and say, I'm yours.'" Very sweet of him there, really, to be honest. It's very sad news. Obviously, we all here wish him a very happy retirement. And it's sad to see him go, really, to be honest. I've never been able to see him live. I've seen many of his DVDs, and I think he's an extremely funny man. And I think it's very sad to see him go. What do you think, guys?
We do know a couple of people that are, of course, going to see one of his final live performances.
Yeah, shouts out to Charlotte Beatty and Charlotte Mednick, who are on their way. Well, they're probably there now in London seeing Mr.
They went
Lee.
tonight.
Yeah, they went tonight, didn't they?
Wow.
Yeah, so they're there now at Wembley Arena. It's not a bad venue to play, really, to be honest.
He's a very infamous comedian, I think, not only for his jokes, but also the large amount of sweat that he tends to do on the stage.
Bad for the touring people, having to clean that up afterwards. I used to be a stagehand in the drama department, and it's never nice clearing up their mess, and especially his sweat. It must be awful on that stage.
Get the mop out.
Get the mop out for the lads. But just going on a bit of a serious note about Lee Evans, I think he's a pioneer for comedy, really, to be honest, because he's the first major comedian that decided to plug arena tours. You know, he was the first one to play Wembley Arena as a comedian. Him and Bill Bailey as well, was the other man as well. Bill, obviously a fantastic comedian. I'm another huge fan of. I've seen him in Watford many times. But Lee Evans is sad, really, to be honest, because he only really does these main arena tours. Obviously, it takes his toll on him and his family, and obviously he wants to spend time with his wife and his daughter. And I think it's very sad because I believe he's a pioneer of comedy, and he'll be sorely missed. But I'm sure we won't see the last of him. I'm sure we'll probably see him somewhere.
I'm a celebrity in a few years' time.
I think he's one of those comedians that gives it absolutely everything. Leaves everything out on the stage.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant comedian.
His passion's always there, and he's just hilarious, basically because he talks about he speaks for everyone in his comedy.
I thought his Roadrunner tour is one of the funniest things I've ever
Yeah.
seen.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie,
absolutely.
it's brilliant, absolutely fantastic.
One thing he's so talented at is his storytelling. I mean, most comedians that do storytelling, I tend to sort of drift away. I'd rather listen to a Stuart Francis or a Milton Jones and get those one-liners, and those instant laughs. But when Lee Evans tells a joke and he tells a story, and he links it so perfectly, it's just brilliant. It's comedy gold.
You have this kind of like magical connection between audience member and comedian. And the thing is, even if you're in that massive arena, whether it be the O2 or Wembley Arena or Cardiff, which is going to be his last performance, you still how far back you may be, the person right at the back of the crowd, you're still going to be the one connecting with him with that joke, because it just hits so hard. It's fantastic.
With his sweat, it's probably better to be towards the back.
Don't want to get drenched. So guys, obviously Lee Evans retiring. For me, he's one of my favourite comedians. So who is your favourite comedian?
Well, I'd say that Lee Evans is one of my favourite comedians. For me, one of my favourite ever comedians is the late great Robin Williams. I've watched many of his tours. I wish I could have seen him live at some point, but it was just absolutely fantastic. He's like Lee Evans. I suppose that's why I probably like him, because he's quite like Lee Evans. Extremely energetic, tells some funny stories. And the thing was, he never switched off. But there was one sad quote I heard that Stephen Fry told on BBC Breakfast just after Robin's passing. Was Robin was funny. He said that Robin was so funny around everyone, and he made everyone laugh. He could crack the best joke. And someone said to him, he said, "Hey Robin," he said, "you're the most funniest guy I've ever met." And he said, "That's funny." He says, "Because I can't make myself like that. I don't find myself funny. I'm struggling to make myself happy." And it's sad, really, at the end of the day. But he's one of my favourite comedians, and good old Dara O'Brien as well at the Arsenal, who sits just across from me.
Oh, really? Of
Yeah.
course, for those who don't know, Chris is a season ticket holder at the Emirates. God bless his soul.
Still keeping it strong, still
Says
shouting.
Says you, the Liverpool fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still shouting at
Sturridge and Balotelli than Giroud and Sanogo.
Oh God, let's not
Sanogo.
get started, please.
What about you, Fred? Favourite comedian?
For me, it's Mickey Flanagan.
Really?
Yeah, I really like his observation.
Have you been watching his Tour de France?
I've been watching bits of it. Obviously, I haven't got a TV, so I've been having to watch it on catch up.
Yeah, same.
I think it's good though. Yeah.
It's hilarious. It's so funny.
I'm really enjoying the bits I've seen. Yeah, I think he's brilliant. And then I also quite like Milton Jones as well, but for different reasons, because his one-liners are fantastic. Lee Evans is up there, and definitely in, I'd say, my top 5 of comedians I really enjoy watching.
He'll be sorely missed.
He will be, absolutely. I think for me personally, it's got to be Milton Jones and Stuart Francis. Milton Jones especially, just the wacky hairstyle and the wacky shirts, and he'll sit there on Mock the Week. You'll have all the panellists, and he'll sit there and he won't really say anything, and he'll look so confused, and then out of nowhere, just one or two sentences, and that's it.
I think that's what makes him stand out on Mock the Week as well. Not only because of his wacky hair and the way
Hawaiian
he looks
shirts.
and his Hawaiian shirt, but the thing is, I think that the others are, I suppose, on that show are seen as satirists, and he's more seen as the comedian, because they're making serious points and jokes about it, where he's just telling a funny joke, which makes it absolutely hilarious.
Ridiculous, no.
Absolutely. Right, we're going to go to our penultimate song here. We've played some Arctic Monkeys very frequently in the studios.
On the Chris Milligan show.
On the Chris Milligan show and the Fred Blagden show as well. But today, of course, is no exception. You know, it's the first episode of Talking Point. We might as well kick straight off with the Arctic Monkeys. So this is the Arctic Monkeys with Mardy Bum.
It's like looking down the barrel of a gun and it goes off. And how come all these words? Oh, there's a very pleasant side to you, a side I much prefer. It's one that's laughs and jokes around. Remember cuddles in the kitchen, yeah, to get things up the ground. And it was up and away. Oh, but it's really hard to remember that on a day like today when you're all argumentative and you've got the face on. Now the money boom, oh, I'm in trouble again, aren't I thought as much, 'cause you turned over there, pulling that silent disappointment face, the one that I can't bear. Well, can't we just laugh and joke around? Remember cuddles in the kitchen, yeah, to get things off the ground, and it was up and away. Oh, but it's really hard to remember that on a day like today when you're all argumentative and you've got the face on. And yeah, I'm sorry I was late, but I missed the train and then the traffic was a state, and I can't be asked to carry on in this debate that reoccurs. Or when you say I don't care, but of course I do, yeah, I clearly do. So laugh and joke around. Remember cuddles in the kitchen, yeah, to get things off the ground, and it was up and away. Oh, but it's really hard to remember that on a day like today when you're all argumentative and you've got the face on.
Rather abrupt ending there to Arctic Monkeys and Mardy Bum. Myself, Chris Milligan and Fred Blackman are all still here in the studio, of course. Earlier on in the programme, Fred gave us a sports report. Now, Fred, you're a keen rugby fan, correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So we're getting stuck into the Rugby Internationals at the moment. What can you tell us?
All four of the home nations are involved this weekend. Ireland play the Australians, Scotland play Tonga, England play Samoa, and Wales play New Zealand. Scotland, very interesting. They made 4 changes to the team that came so close to New Zealand. Johnny Beattie comes in for Adam Ash, and Jeff Cross comes in for Ewan Murray. Ireland, doing quite well from moving on from O'Driscoll, beating the South Africans. And Gordon Darcy and Roy Best return for fitness. Wales, still 1 win over the Big Three under Warren Gatland. They play World Champions New Zealand this weekend. And England play the Samoans this weekend, and George Ford starts at fly half while Owen Farrell moves to 12. So, how do you think England are getting on?
I think they've done okay so far. It's not been too bad. It's been a bit hard viewing because obviously desperate to see England do well, as one does here. I didn't watch the South Africa game because I was busy that day, but I was getting live updates. And for them to bring it back it's pretty good in itself. Just to let it go at the end it's a shame, really, to be honest. But it shows that we can hold ourselves against the bigger teams. You know, we can give them a good run for their money. Against New Zealand, I mean, people said obviously we were hammered. I wouldn't say we were hammered as such, but we towards the end they showed their pure dominance.
The scoreline for the majority of the game wasn't reflective of that. It was a very close game, and we were in the pub, the Royal Oak. We were watching that and the Wales-Australia game simultaneously. And, Wales are looking, attacking. They're a bit slow. I mean, Lee Halfpenny and George North, they need to step up a bit, in my opinion.
Because no one else will.
Pretty much because no one else will. The defence, shocking. The entire game. Australia will play one pass, off they go.
Thing is, the Aussies had the most potent backs in the world, though. Yeah. Israel Folau, Adam Ashley Cooper. And this week, you got to play the All Blacks, so...
Yeah, and we found that tough. So, well, we didn't find it tough. We did okay, but
they are brilliant.
They are number one.
Luckily for you, Dan Carter is out injured, but is McCaw's 100th appearance as captain, which can only spur him on in Cardiff.
I think it will. I think it definitely will.
Home game advantage. Not that it's going to make much difference. I think if we get past 20 points, we can consider that a victory.
5:30 kick-off.
I'm sure the Cardiff faithful will be in fantastic voice at the Millennium Stadium.
Of course.
Yeah. As per normal. But
is that going to be the second shout-out of the show to Charlotte Beattie, then?
Yeah, Charlotte.
Screaming at the telly.
Yeah.
lunatic.
Talking of running games close, as Chris said earlier about England, what did you make of? Did any of you watch a Scotland game at the weekend against the All Blacks?
I did, yes. I was actually rather impressed with Scotland.
It was very close, wasn't it?
It was exceptionally close. I didn't expect Scotland, who aren't... I wouldn't consider them one of the top teams. They're up there, but they're
tier
up
2
there.
side now, I reckon.
Yeah. The fact that they were able to compete with the All Blacks at that level.
Especially impressed with the Gray brothers in the second row, Richie and Johnny, both the Glasgow boys, both was like 6'8", fucking. Sorry, big lads.
The chemistry they have together is just staggering. They work like clockwork.
I used to have a joke with a boy at my school who he was actually English, but his dad was Scottish, so he obviously followed Scotland every now and then. He wanted England to do well, but obviously followed Scotland as well. And I always used to say when it came down to the Six Nations, because I'd say, England or Ireland are going to go for the title, Scotland are going to go for the wooden spoon.
Yeah, Scotland have only come on since Van Cotter took charge. Should we talk about Ireland quickly?
Yeah, go for it.
They beat South Africa on week 1, and they're unbeaten so far in the autumn. Australia, though, it's a bit of a different prospect, a bit of a tougher game.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, obviously, because Australia proved themselves against Wales. Playing Wales, obviously, is going to be a tough game, and Australia, I think, showed their dominance in that game, which I think they can easily show against Ireland. Obviously, the void for Ireland have got to fill as O'Driscoll as well.
Yeah, I do agree, but with Gordon Darcy coming back, that can only add experience to the centre pairing.
Definitely.
One last question, I suppose. With England having lost their last 4 games, is it crucial, do you think, they beat Samoa on Saturday?
I think they expected to beat Samoa with no offence.
No disrespect to them.
No disrespect intended to Samoa. But I think it is a little bit of pressure because, we're coming up to the 2015 World Cup. It's going to be here sooner than we all think. And, they need to start putting on a good show before we host it in our home country.
I think the necessity to perform is always there.
Yeah.
There's always an expectation on England. We invented the sport. Unlike football, we're actually good at this sport that we invented.
Yeah.
So that pressure is always there. And I think the World Cup win that we have is still fresh in people's minds. Johnny Wilkinson's fantastic drop kick.
I remember that evening very well. Got a poster. It was in my brother's room with the scoreline and the victory and holding up the trophy.
Yeah.
What an evening.
But from there, I think there was an expectation that we would continue winning. And if that stops, I think fingers are going to start to be pointed.
The problem that happened with that, really, to be honest, is that we kept going with that same team for the next
too long. Yeah.
And I think I was speaking to Fred about this earlier on the way back to Hamwick, that I give a lot of credit to Lancaster because he's come in and basically said, right, the old guard, you go out, let's bring in the new lot, the younger lot. We need you to come through and start doing well. And it's been a slow transition, but I think, fair credit to him. I think that's what Hodgson has to really do with the England football team now as well.
Totally
get rid
agree.
But why would you do that when you can have Ricky Lambert up front?
And Michael Carrick in midfield.
Michael Carrick alongside Gareth Barry.
That's a fantastic
midfield.
midfield.
Julian Lescott at the back.
You need to start bringing through your Danny Ings and your Ward Prowsers and
Charlie Austin.
Ward Priest.
Ward Priest.
Yeah.
That's the reference to a funny interview that we did with a Southampton fan.
Yeah.
We love it. Well, unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. It's been fantastic, and thank you very much for tuning in to Talking Point. You can follow us all on Twitter. We've got @C_J_Milligan, because Chris just loves those underscores and can't have a simple.
The underscores will be taken out very soon, so just be @CJ Milligan.
And we've got @Fred Blagden, and unfortunately, my name is taken numerous times, so my name is @DaveGeorge96. Thank you for joining me today, gentlemen.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah.
And now to play us out, here's Foles with My Number.